Let's talk about the American road trip. I mean, it's this huge symbol of freedom, right? Adventure, the open road. But for some people, that open road leads to a pretty terrifying dead end. Today, we're digging into 3 true stories where a dream drive turned into an absolute nightmare.
Okay, so let's get right into it. Because behind all the scenic routes and the carpool karaoke, there's the potential for something way, way darker. And look, these aren't just spooky campfire tales. These are seriously harrowing, real accounts of what can happen when you're isolated, vulnerable, and miles from home.
All right, so for our first story, picture this. A car full of college kids. They're heading to this legendary party in Santa Barbara called Diltopia. You can just imagine the vibe, right? The mood is amazing, the trip is going perfectly, they've even got a place to crash. Everything seems totally perfect. Or so they think.
Now, you know how every friend group kind of has one? The person who just latches on to the social circle? Well, for this group, that guy was Amir. He was kind of insecure, a little loud, and definitely not part of their plan. But after they make a quick stop at a liquor store, bam, there he is, just standing on the curb, ready to fall right in step with them like he was invited all along.
The second they get back to the apartment, the awkwardness just skyrockets. Amir walks right up to the host's sister, a person he's never met, and just announces, "I'm staying here." He just forces his way in. When they confront him and tell him, "No, you have to leave," he actually argues with them for 20 minutes before he finally takes off. But he doesn't go very far. And this is where things go from just plain annoying to genuinely life-threatening. The group realizes Amir had been tracking their shared phone location this whole time. The next day, his little location dot pops up right on top of theirs before it zips away. They kind of laugh it off, thinking he's just obsessive. But that night, that obsession turns violent when he smashes his way into their apartment with a rock. The narrator is the only one who wakes up when the glass shatters. He grabs the first thing he can find, an empty wine bottle, and creeps into the living room. He sees the broken door, and he just knows it was Amir. And then out of the corner of his eye, he sees it, the tiniest, slightest jiggle of a closet door handle. Someone is in there. So, here's the crucial moment. In this moment of just pure terror, he stops. Instead of just yanking that door open, some instinct, some kind of better judgment tells him not to. It's a decision that, without a doubt, saved his life. He backs away and goes to wake up his friend, Hunter.
By the time they get back to the living room, the closet door is open. Amir is gone. But then Hunter reaches inside and pulls out a huge kitchen knife. Amir hadn't just broken in. He was hiding in that closet, armed and waiting. The story ends with Amir blocking all of them on his phone and just vanishing, leaving them all to wonder what he's capable of doing next.
Okay, for our second story, we're going to jump back in time to 1996. We meet Arthi, a 24-year-old communications specialist in the Air Force. She's on a road trip with 2 of her military friends, Sebas and Kay. They're just driving from their base in San Angelo to Austin, just to get a change of scenery.
So they're out on this really remote stretch of Texas highway when they notice a dark Tahoe behind them. And every single time their driver, Kay, changes lanes, the Tahoe does the exact same thing. A minute later, flashing lights pop on. It seems like, okay, it's just a routine stop by an undercover cop, but something is immediately and terribly wrong.
And this is where Arthi's military training just kicks right in. Her brain starts screaming red flag. Her trained eye spots all the things that are wrong. The so-called officer is in unmarked tactical gear. He doesn't even approach the window, he just stands behind the car, studying their bumper stickers. And then 2 more men get out of the SUV. She knows right then and there, this is not a traffic stop.
The officer finally walks up to the window and asks about a U.S. military bumper sticker. And Kay, she just laughs and says, yeah, not only her, but her 2 friends in the car are all in the military. And that's the turning point. The man's whole body language just stiffens. He glances back at his partners, then back at Kay. After this really weird, tense silence, he lets them go with a warning, and they just speed away.
A week later, Arthi is just at home watching the news. A story comes on about a couple who were found murdered and dumped in a ditch on a highway right outside of San Angelo, and the vehicle found abandoned nearby? A black Tahoe. The horrifying truth just comes crashing down on them. Those men were not police, they were predators. And a simple bumper sticker, a simple comment, might have been the only thing that saved their lives.
So our final story is about a road trip that goes wrong in a totally different way. It starts with a guy driving solo from New Jersey down to Texas to visit his parents. And then, in the absolute middle of nowhere, his car just dies. He's stranded and completely helpless. So just as he's about to give up and call a tow truck, this pickup pulls over. The driver gets out, looks like a guy who works with his hands, and says he's a mechanic. And he gets right to work on the engine. For a second, it feels like this incredible stroke of luck. But this was no accident. This was a practiced con, a performance. The mechanic invents a problem. He says he needs a special tool. Then he invents another one. Oh, his phone is dead. He asks to borrow the narrator's phone. And in that moment of trust, as the phone is handed over, he pulls out gun. The offer of help was just a trap from the very beginning.
The guy takes his wallet, his backpack, his phone, and just drives off. The narrator is furious, but he eventually gets help, makes it to his parents' house, he cancels all his cards, gets new IDs, and he tries to move on. But 6 months later, the mail starts arriving, and he realizes that robbery wasn't the end of it. It was only the beginning. Using the stolen Social Security card, the thief starts to steal his entire life. Fraudulent credit cards get opened. His credit score is absolutely destroyed. And then, it gets so much worse. Someone gets emergency medical care under his name, creating fake and potentially really dangerous records in his health file. His entire identity is being corrupted from the inside out.
So he does everything right. He reports it all, files fraud alerts, freezes his credit, goes to the police in multiple towns, but with no name, no license plate, they basically tell him there's nothing they can do. So, fed up and totally desperate, he decides if he's going to get his life back, he's going to have to hunt this guy down himself. He becomes a digital detective. He sets up all these alerts, he's scanning forums, and one night, just on a whim, he starts checking Craigslist in cities that are tied to all the fraud. And then he finds it, a posting in Jackson, Tennessee, for used power tools. He looks closer and realizes the stuff for sale? It's a perfect match for the fraudulent charges on a Best Buy card opened in his name. He's got a lead. So he contacts the seller, sets up a meeting, and then gives all the information to the Jackson police. They agree to check it out. And when the suspect spots the patrol cars near the meetup spot, he panics and flees, crashing his truck. When they question him, he folds instantly, admits the stuff isn't his, and rats out his friends. The investigation reveals it wasn't just one guy. It was a whole ring of 3 criminals targeting travelers. Finally, justice was served.
So 3 really different stories, 3 different road trips, but they all share some really chilling common threads, about vulnerability, about intuition, and about that razor-thin line between a friendly stranger and a deadly threat.
I think what this all really boils down to is that danger doesn't always look dangerous. It can be a friend who won't take no for an answer, a fake cop, or a good Samaritan who isn't good at all. In every single one of these stories, a tiny detail, a jiggling door handle, a bumper sticker, a Craigslist ad, changed everything. And these stories prove that while the scary part might be over in a few minutes, the consequences,